What did I miss? Brian here, and it's afternoon, and it's a nice day outside. Hood is up because we're going to be doing a little bit of maintenance to the 4Runner, and that is changing out the power steering fluid. A few years ago, I did a power steering fluid flush. It flushed out the power steering pump, the rack and pinion, and I added a power steering cooler. And it was a little bit before 100,000 miles. Currently, I have 160,000 miles, almost 161,000 miles. Now, at the time when I did the flush, added the new cooler and new fluid, the new fluid was bright red. And if you look at the reservoir, that's not bright red. Though, when you look at it from another angle, you could see it's still retaining that red color, but still, that fluid is dirty and it needs to be changed out. Now, I'm not going to be doing another flush, per se. I'm going to be doing a few drain and fills as there's a lot less work and a lot less tools involved. I did a flush before and there's a lot of work, a lot of tools involved, and usually it's preferred to have a second person with you. At the time, I had 2 people with me, but this time I'm by myself, so the drain and fill method is the way to go. Plus, this is good for anyone who's working under the hood by themselves. For the tools, you don't need much. All you really need is a suction pump and some sort of catch can to put all the dirty fluid in. Now, you don't need anything fancy. In fact, I didn't use anything fancy. I just used one of those medical syringes with a rubber hose at the end and an empty water bottle because those are much easier to obtain. As for the materials, you only need one thing, and that is the automatic transmission fluid, also known as the ATF.
You got a TS for this, boy?
TS.
Tax stamp? Like your serial numbers are a little scratched there. We'll go ahead and confiscate this. Go ahead and stand up against the car. Go ahead and put you out of your misery.
One last thing to mention is that for the 4th gen 4Runners, the owner's manual states that you have to use Dexron 2 or Dexron 3 automatic transmission fluid, and it even says it on the cap. Use Dexron type ATF. I have been using Valvoline Max Life ATF and I've been using it for a few years. It works great. I've had no problems with it. And in fact, this is what I used whenever I did the power steering fluid flush. Now, if you want to stick with Dexron 2 or Dexron 3, that's fine. Maybe you could use Dexron 4, but I just stick with Valvoline Max Life. It's very easy to find, it's versatile, and it works for almost any vehicle. And in fact, if you look at that, recommended for Dexron 4, and Mercon as well. So without further ado, let's get to it. We need to remove the cap, like so, and then pull the fluid out. All right, the fluid is out. I'm gonna put it in an empty water bottle. All right. So this is what I pulled out of the reservoir. It's not too bad. Like I said, it's still retaining some of that red color, but it needs to be changed out. Now I'm gonna take my transmission fluid and pour it into the reservoir. It's filled up. I'm gonna cap it off and I'm gonna go for a little bit of a drive. I'm back and the fluid already looks a little bit darker. Initially when we poured it in, it was bright red. So we're going to pull this stuff out. All right, I got all of the dirty fluid out. I pulled the fluid out 4 times and that fluid inside the reservoir is bright red. And also, I noticed the steering is a lot smoother than before. Just look at that fluid inside the reservoir. It's bright red, it's clean, clear. The power steering pump, the rack and pinion, and the power steering cooler are all healthy again. Earlier, the fluid was dark. It was still retaining its red color, but it was turning black, and it wasn't as translucent as it is right now. And on top of that, the steering earlier was already smooth as is. Now, the steering is even smoother since we put new fluid in the system. And the sun is coming out, so now would be a good time to show you all the fluid that I poured in and took out of the reservoir. To the very left is what we started with, and to the very right is the fluid in its cleanest state. Here's a closer look. Like I said, this is what we started with. Then you start to see some change and more change and so on. That is the first drain and fill. That's the second, third, and I did a fourth one just for good measure, and it came out clean. So that is the fluid at its cleanest state. Basically when you pour it straight from the bottle. Kind of cool to see how the fluid goes from dirty to clean, just like that. And so that is it for this video. That is how you change out the power steering fluid using the drain and fill method. If you're subscribed, thanks. If you're not, thanks for taking the time to watch this video. Take care, everyone. I'll catch you on the flip side.
That made that crowd jump.